can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier.
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Greetings and salutations, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, the Infuso. And today is no laughing matter, as we'll be taking a look back at Batman 89's Joker. Now this role was so fondly remembered that there was some backlash and public outcries when Heath Ledger was later cast in the role. And this guy's only crime was that he wasn't this clown prince of crime. There was some real Harry Potter energy here with Batman fans.
How dare you stand where he stood?
People were pissed just because someone else dared to do what Jack Nicholson had already done. And for reference, Batman was recast in his first 4 films 3 times. That's 3 different Batmen in one connected continuity. And people just rolled their eyes and accepted that. But the Joker was recast in the role for a separate story, and everyone started losing their mind. That should tell you just how beloved this big bad truly was. Often Burton and Keaton are credited with redefining the Batman character, but what is equally impressive is Nicholson's time as the Clown Prince of Crime. He brought the same dark edge to the character of the Joker that Michael Keaton brought to the role in Batman, and in that sense they were the perfect match. In terms of the performance itself, I think I may have been a little bit harsh on this iteration in the past. While I still think a lot of my criticisms are valid, I also think that I didn't do nearly enough to reiterate all the good there was to this version of the character. First and foremost, this is one of the most inspired choices in casting ever made. Jack Nicholson aesthetically embodies the Joker. Both the actor and the character are made famous for their signature smiles and, at times, receding hairlines. There was always a similarity between the comic book villain and the award-winning actor, so a marriage between the two just seems natural. And he didn't just match the character's appearance. Jack Nicholson matched the character's appearance and energy. When asked to step in the role, Nicholson rose to the occasion. There's a certain credibility and believability that Jack brings to this role. As odd and outlandish as the character is, he never once comes off as anything but sincere, and sincerely insane. I believe this man is actually the Joker, and I believe this Joker could be an actual man. This version of the Joker was fun. He was funny, which is something I can't say for every portrayal of the Joker that I've seen. Not every cinematic criminal clown has been a comedian. As a matter of fact, most of them weren't. But it's hard to not at least snicker at his sinister, sarcastic nature. Jack just has such a natural charm to him that he makes you almost want to root for him, even though you know that you probably shouldn't. This Joker's a bad guy who does bad things and has a good time doing so. He lived up to his name. There certainly was an emphasis put on the Joker's jokes. He did what he did for yucks, and his body count was a punchline. In many ways, this was the Joker. He's sharp and quick-witted, and he has a joke for any situation or scenario. Jack Nicholson excelled in the simplest, but also some of the most integral parts of the character. Jack Nicholson's Joker was a true showman, knowing how and when to make an entrance, and making anything that he was involved in feel like some grandiose event. He truly was a larger-than-life personality. The man knew how to have a good time, but his good time also almost always came at the expense of everyone else's. The character is also portrayed as being fairly intelligent, at a time when the general public was used to a much more goofy goon. You weren't gonna get that here, though. This Joker knew how to put a plan in place, and when to sit back and watch it play out. I just wish we would have got to delve a little bit deeper into the darker psychosis of the character. It's even more upsetting to me because this is definitely something that Jack Nicholson could have pulled off. Look at his previous performances as Mad Men. Take The Shining, or even One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at times. I just wish we got to delve a little bit deeper into the darker psychology of the character. Compared to the depths and darkness this character's gone through on screen since, it can feel a little bit, well, unfortunately underwhelming. But to be fair, when you're looking back on the time period and what people were used to, this was a surprisingly dark take on the man who laughs. In that right, Jack was a trendsetter. And any way that you slice and dice this particular performance paved the way for all the Jokers that followed. This was a huge step forward in the character's public profile. Without Jack Nicholson legitimizing the laughing man, who knows where the character would be.
I'm the Joker, baby!
Jack deserves all the credit in the world for breathing life into this maniacal madman in a way that hadn't been done before at this point in time. The more time goes on, the more I appreciate this particular variant of the villain. The more time goes on, the more I appreciate this variant of the villain. Because it seems like just about every act after him has gone a different route in trying to justify the Joker's name and look. At the very least, this one just presented itself unashamedly. On the other hand, the fact that each version is so significantly different from the one that came before it makes each one of these Jokers feel distinct and unique. But I'm not gonna lie, I really do miss the traditional pale white face and ruby red lips. I truly hope I get to see this version of the Joker again on the big screen before I pass. But at this rate, it ain't looking good. I think Jack Nicholson put on not just a good performance, but a pretty great one in its own right. But I think it's the movie's depiction of the character's motives and motivations that really felt far off for me. There are definitely elements to this rendition of the character that I'm none too fond of. Making the Joker a ladies' man is, well, forgive the pun, laughable. Showcasing the Joker as some lovesick puppy/stalker always felt completely off-brand to me. I've always thought the Joker was incapable of showing any sort of love or affection, unless it was fictitious and used as a form of manipulation. I don't think people factor into the Joker's plans all that much, unless they're specifically being used as pawns. In a lot of ways, I think something as simple and human as feelings would really just be an enigma to him. Joker doesn't love, and if he does, his love doesn't look like what normal, healthy love looks like. Like, case in point, his relationship with Batman. That legitimately may be the one person he loves, and it is to the misfortune of everyone around them. I just can't see this face-painted foe falling head over heels for a pretty face. It feels really silly, even for the Joker. Actually, especially for the Joker. And Vicki Vale is a main motivator for him. He spends a good chunk of the runtime aggressively pursuing Bruce Wayne's Tinder date. I mean, like, all of that's weird to say, but it's even weirder to see. Add to it that this is an essential establishing factor in the Batman-Joker feud, and honestly, the whole thing just becomes mind-boggling.
A woman! Must be insane.
Their rivalry in part revolves around a love triangle. Joker's mad at Batman because he wants his girl. That's what it comes down to in the end. Somehow, I don't think that's nearly as compelling as a madman obsessed with trying to get Gotham's stern, stoic protector to break. There are also much bigger underlining issues here to justify Batman's vendetta with the Joker. It's not Joe Chill, it's the Joker who took the lives of Bruce Wayne's parents. While that's always a factor in this story, a lot of the time it becomes secondary to this three's a crowd story, and that absolutely gets a thumbs down for me. I have mixed feelings on the Joker's origin. On one hand, I'm not too crazy about the Joker not being too crazy. I don't love that this movie made him a mob boss. I've always thought that organized crime feels a little bit too, organized for the Joker. I can't by any means think of him following orders even if it's in his origin. I also don't see him running the mob. It feels too civilized for a clown. Even gangsters carry far too much honor for a psychopath. He's far too mental and unruly for this sort of orderly, disorderly conduct. I don't know, I've always thought the Joker is much more of a could-be cult leader. When I think of the Clown Prince of Crime, I think of a man who acts on his own accord. He isn't following someone else's rulebook, he's writing his own as he goes along, and then proceeding to break the rules that he's just previously established, because that's his thing. I don't like the major changes made to the character's mythos. When it comes to making him the murderer of the Waynes, you could say I'm of two minds on the subject. I think the notion of the Joker being so much older than Bruce kind of makes it feel like a little bit of a mismatch. Sure, age-wise, this Bruce wasn't in his prime, but this Joker was about to become a senior citizen. The gap between the two always threw me off, but I think I've always accepted a lot of it just because of how great the two performers are in their respective roles. I think the story of a nobody being the one to take the lives of Bruce Wayne's parents, to me it just feels much stronger. Because what people seem to misunderstand is that Joker isn't Batman's archenemy. Batman is definitely the Joker's archenemy, but when it comes to Batman, the Joker's not really his archnemesis. Crime is. Joker does what he does to get one over on Batman, but Batman doesn't take part in his delusions. Batman's archenemy isn't a person, it's injustice in general. He fights for an unattainable goal. What better way to start that story off than by not giving his murderer a face? Batman doesn't pursue the Joker, Batman pursues justice. I think this also presents a problem when the movie ends with Batman killing the Joker, because at this point, he's avenged his parents. His quest for vengeance is complete. It almost feels like his story is over, because the passion of his pursuit is now gone. It's a change that I don't like in practice as an adaptation, but if I was looking at this as its own unique story, I can't deny that that presents a really interesting narrative. It's a real chicken or the egg scenario. This Joker essentially unknowingly created Batman, and then Batman accidentally created the Joker years later. It almost sounds paradoxical, but it's completely accurate. It's like the Ouroboros of origin stories. These two characters are forever intertwined, integral pieces in the other's storied history. There's something beautifully poetic about it all. And even taking it a step further, Jack was there for Batman's birth, and Batman was there for Joker's death. I don't know, man, that's kind of amazing. If I was judging this as its own story without the premise of this being a Batman story, I would love it. To some extent, I love it here too. I just hate that it's these characters that are in that story. I don't think this works for Joker, and I don't think this works for Batman. However, I think this works for Tim Burton, and he should be commended for doing an incredible job. Batman and the Joker were perfect counterparts. The few scenes they share together, they come across as polar opposites. Joker's obnoxious comedic styles clash with Batman's stern and silent nature, as it should. Each actor properly represented the character they were portraying. That was evident not only with each performance individually, but also with the shared chemistry between the two. I actually happen to think this is one of the best Batman and Joker dynamics ever put to screen. Unfortunately, they don't share the screen nearly as much as they should, but that also makes every time that they do feel that much more important and impactful. It makes the moments they share together feel more special. To us, the audience, not to them. But it still would have been nice to have these two get a little bit more acquainted. I think it would be a little bit hypocritical to say that this movie isn't true to the Joker's origins, when the Joker's origins were one of the less explored aspects of the character originally. The fact that it even gave the Joker a solidified story is a deviation in of itself. Not that backstories for this big bad didn't already exist, it's just not something that was really explored. Because quite frankly, most people don't really care who he was before he put on the clown shoes. They don't care about the man, they want to see the menace. However, there are definite elements here taken from the Red Hood story. Batman stopping the would-be criminal and knocking him into a vat of chemicals that forever scar his face and alter his appearance is straight out of Detective Comics. But I think his story feels much more like an adaptation of Black Mask's backstory. Black Mask was a striped-collared criminal who started off as a hired hand, but connived his way into becoming Gotham's greatest crime lord. He had a love interest by the name of Circe, whose face he horrifically scarred. Despite this, she remained fiercely loyal to him, becoming a passive accomplice in his every plan, purely out of fear of what would happen to her otherwise. That is almost verbatim what happens here, with Alicia taking over the Circe role. Outside of the similarity, the rest of the character's background was specifically for the film. The name Jack Napier was made up for the movie, because the Joker has no real secret identity. He's just the Joker. This actually had some staying power though, as Jack Napier has since become an alias Joker uses when going incognito, or alternatively, as a legitimate birth name in other continuities. As with anything Tim Burton related that has an already established lore, the source material kinda goes out the window in favor of him telling his own story with different elements of the mythos. Jack Nicholson was a great Joker. I think as the Joker, the character worked a lot. And whenever the character didn't work as an accurate adaptation of the Joker, it worked in favor of the story that Tim Burton was trying to tell. He may have not always fit the character from the comics, but he did always work as the character in this movie. He's a fitting fixture of the film. The flaws I found within the character were no fault of the actor who was portraying him, but rather how the scripts had portrayed him. While I don't think Jack Nicholson was the perfect Joker, I do think he was the perfect Joker for Michael Keaton's Batman. And honestly, maybe that's more important. So with all that being said, if you like this video and would like to see a video on Danny DeVito's Penguin, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, And you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.